Again, thank you, President of Khon Kaen University, former presidents, executives, distinguished researchers, ladies and gentlemen. Since time is running very tight, I would like to make sure that I have covered enough to be useful for Khon Kaen University and the community around this region. First of all, let me mention that the theme of Khon Kaen University this time, although it's limited to social devotion in the 21st century, but more importantly, at this point in time, Thailand is going through a period of reform. So let me put a number of issues as well as the how-to in terms of reforming, hopefully, the country in both economic and social development through science, technology, and in particular innovation. First of all, let me mention that I'll be, since many of our guests in this room are new to Thailand, especially in terms of our research, science policy. So let me spend like 15 minutes browsing through a number of issues that are pertinent to what we want to achieve and to correct. And then the rest of time, I would like to highlight a number of measures so that you'll be able to understand what the government is trying to do, in particular the time that we have. First of all, let me mention that what we are planning to do in terms of developing our science, technology, and innovation is not for the sake of the science community alone. It's not for the sake of developing our technologies alone, but more importantly, to get Thailand out of the middle income trap. And by saying that, I mean, if we look at the production process of Thailand today, which certainly would involve a lot of research work, we will find that the majority of what we trade or what we produce is restricted to the OEM or produced for others. Not much for our own design, not much for our own knowledge. And we need to beat that type of production process. Why? Because at the moment, we are not enjoying low labor costs anymore. We are not enjoying many of the raw materials for which we have to import from foreign countries. So the fact is we need to struggle in order to be more dependent on our own self rather than dependent on foreign technologies or foreign experts alone. Although we need to network with our foreign friends like what we do today at Khon Kaen University as much as we could. However, as a country, we need to see to it that in the end, we can be proud of our own innovation, our own invention, and our own industry. So to get Thailand out of the middle income trap by figures, we are talking about up the level of income per head per year from about $5,000 to about $13,000, something that seemed to be difficult to achieve. But with strong will, especially strong political will, and certainly with the help of the university community, we'll be able to get there. Maybe 10 years, maybe 15 years, but hopefully not 50 years. And I'm half serious about this, but it is true that many countries in the world spend 60 years to get out to another level. We spent about 26 years to get out of the low income level to middle income level. So just imagine how many more years. And to excite our own self, we need to compare with some of our neighbors, such as Malaysia, our good friend down south. Years ago, Malaysia announced that they will become a developed country by the year 2020. And from this graph, we will be able to see that they are getting near. In fact, the current Prime Minister mentioned that they would shorten from 2020 to 2018 for Malaysia to achieve the 13,000 mark, something which is achievable. So we need to provide spirit and common agenda among our own self to be able to achieve that. And certainly from the point of view of my responsibility, which is science, technology, and innovation, we certainly should deploy our capabilities in science, technology, and innovation to be able to help the country sort ourselves out of the middle income trap. So that is the goal. We are not doing science without any goal. We certainly have a grand goal to achieve. Secondly, as I mentioned earlier, we are at the stage where we have to decide whether we will push our industry to move forward with our own production, with our own technologies, with our own innovation, providing our young graduates, equip them so that they would use their creativity and their innovative mind to be able to be young entrepreneurs, to be able to perform simple trading, to be able to do simple engineering, and to be able to help our economy to push forward. No longer that we should be sandwiched in the middle anymore, from low labor costs, which we do not have, from creativity, which are limited, and from poverty, which at least 8% of the population is still below that target. So this is an additional objective that we should keep in mind. Thirdly, we recognize that a company like Beta Grow can do well. They are large enough. However, 99% of companies in Thailand are still considered small, medium enterprises, a big chunk of the economy. In fact, we should call them backbone of the economy. So the engagement of university research, the engagement of university professors and researchers to help Thai SMEs in particular are very crucial for the existence of strong SMEs in Thailand. Lately, we hear that Japan, especially Japanese SMEs, are coming to Thailand in lots. I think it's a challenge that we need to position ourselves in order to make sure that both Thai and Japanese SMEs, for example, could cooperate and could have technology transfer among them and could be facilitated so that supply chains in the Thai economy can be strengthened more with the help of the Japanese SMEs, for example. We also need to turn the table around so that Thailand would not be technological dependent as much as we are today. Today, our net gain is not so good. We probably should talk about net loss instead. We are spending more than 170 billion baht per year buying technologies from overseas, paying for royalties, for copyrights. If we can use that amount of money in research, wouldn't that be wonderful? Especially for Khon Kaen University to take part in building the country with knowledge instead of buying knowledge from outside of the country. Now, I'm not here to just give you bad news. There are also good news. And the good news is today we see evidence, we have good signals from the Thai private sector investing in research more and more. A few years ago, we are talking about an amount of 20 billion baht invested by the private sector. Today, we are looking at the figure of 27 billion baht, a big increase for a year or two. And we hope that we can put that amount into a big increase from now on, but it's not easy. It's going to be cooperation between university and the private sector, something that we have been talking for decades, the UIL, University Industry Linkages. Now is the time to do more on UIL. And now is the time to make sure that our researchers understand their roles, that it's not only inside the university laboratories, but more importantly, how to make sure that university products on the shelf can be delivered to commercialization. This is quite important at this juncture. It's not that we are not promoting basic science or fundamental science, but it's that at the moment, especially this coming decade, we need to make sure that our limited investment, our limited budget can be well spent to create value addition to the economy, apart from to create knowledge. So let us be clear that we are walking along the road that we want productivity, that we want values, apart from creating knowledge, pure knowledge. And I understand that for the past 2 decades, we have been talking a lot in a cynical way that Thailand has consistently been investing about 0.25% of GDP in research. And we sort of amused by that figure, that we can maintain it so well, while many other countries in the world have jumped to 1%, 2%, or even 3%. China, with its large base at the moment, investing about 2.2%. So they are going up there to the space, and we are still on the ground. But there's nothing wrong with being on the ground as long as we can make the ground and the soil healthy soil. And it's you who have to do it. I'm here as a messenger to tell you what other sides are talking about. Since the theme of this conference is a lot to do with social devotion, let me also make sure that we all agree that through science and technology, we also need to address the social disparity issue. Thailand at the moment has, for those of you who are in economics, not doing so well in the Gini coefficient, which is the coefficient that measures the gap between the rich and the poor. So I understand that Khon Kaen University has done a lot to serve the communities, and that is honorable, and hope you can do more. Another thing that we also have to realize along the way, and that is how to keep our environmental concern intact in what we do, not only for our clean air, but also because of international agreements at the moment, which will force us to do more and more in terms of keeping the climate change agreement as international agreement has reached. For example, not to get the whole world more than 200 degrees centigrade hotter, or not to increase the level of pollution in carbon dioxide more than 450 parts per million. That's the international rules, and it will be translated to domestic rule, so we need to be aware. And partly because our trading in the future would depend on how well we can keep our environment and how well we can accommodate the climate change restriction that we have to do. For example, the carbon labeling or the carbon capture technologies. We also need to look pretty hard in our energy security. The fact that we are major importer of energy and fuels make it clear that we need to be more reliable on clean energy, on renewable energy, on alternative energy. And here, research from university can be very meaningful. And with current trend in technology change, especially in solar energy, something that we felt in the past that is not cost effective. Now the China development in solar energy is changing the whole landscape. The oil landscape is also changing because of the discovery of the shale gas in many countries, especially in the United States. Socially, we also have to keep in mind that we are aging. I am certainly aging with this position very quickly. But the country is aging to the fact that in 10 years, 15 years from now, we are going to have 20% of our population categorized as aged population. So we need to look into not only to try to keep the health of the senior citizens in good shape, but also look into the economic side of population as well, and that is how to keep our labor force productivity enough to be able to feed the whole society. Because we are going to have less workforce, we are going to have more of senior citizens, that we may think about raising the retirement age, or we can think about how healthy senior citizens can still contribute to the productivity of the country. And in particular, how we can get our young generation whom we will produce less to be more able, to be more creative, and to be more innovative. All of this are involved with science technology. We are seeing the trend that science and technology become something that the young generation would not like to study, and here you would know more than I do, and that is we have to address the question of why they are keeping themselves away from science and technology. Is it because the curriculum is too lengthy, too difficult? Is it because the job is too difficult to find in engineering, in science? Or is it because the parents want them to do medicine? We do need to address this, and this is why in many countries, including us, are now entering a program on the so-called STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And it's not only education. STEM, in my view, should also cover STEM workforce, how to get our workforce, 30 or 40 million workforce, to be more able in STEM capabilities. Now, let me mention also the fact that science, technology, and innovation has in the past, even up until now, sidelined or considered something that's not much involved in the economic activities of the country. But indeed, in the world today, STI, the so-called STI, is now seen as the propeller, is now seen as the prime mover in order to create the growth engine, to create the open society. Now we have open innovation, to create production, both in economic production or even to be able to conduct a high quality education. So this has to be spread throughout the country. I myself alone cannot do the job. You have to help me in spreading the news that science, technology, and innovation are very important to the society, very important to the new generation, and very important to both economic future and the social devotion that you talk about. Before I end, I have just 3 messages to give you. The first one is that we will be able to do a lot of projects, but a lot of them are very functional and does not create change in the society. And I'm talking about change in science and technology in many aspects. So if we can be successful this year, we would like to move into the so-called structural reform of innovation for Thailand. And by reform, I'm not talking about just purely create projects or even mega projects in science, but I'm talking about changing some of the structures that are vital for the continuity and the efficiency of science development in Thailand. First, we need to change our science budgeting system, and I'm talking about the public budgeting system. We all are well aware the fact that science and technology is more long-term than short-term. However, the budgeting system of the country is on annual basis, as we know. A lot of times we suffer from the budget cuts. A lot of times we could not complete our science projects because they are cut here and there, because they are not continued for the whole length of time of the science project itself. So through a reform in budgeting system in science, we are talking about creating a system whereby for every science project that you do, you should have a program based, or you should have a strategic plan of that project in 3 years or in 5 years as the principal document instead of just annual request. And if we can do that, we can use that program of a longer term to be able to negotiate with the budget bureau or with the government. But we have in return to be able to convince that we will deliver the outputs and the outcomes as promised in the budget request. If we can do that, and if there's a good monitoring system at the top, then we can scatter all these measures into ministerial level. This is a bit complicated, but just let me just summarize that through a new budgeting system, if we can achieve, we'll be able to make sure that we will deliver science products, effective ones, to the public with the amount of money that are continuous and not ad hoc. Secondly, we also need to make sure that innovation, particularly in my view, should be placed as the top priority of the country to move forward. And here I'm talking about the country which has a national development plan, for example, the NESDB plan, which is entering into its 12th plan, 5-year plan. Hopefully we can have a single voice telling the planners that this is the time for innovation, if you agree with me. If not, then we'll fight. In my view, it must be innovation decade for Thailand to get out of the troubles, for Thailand to get out of the middle income trap that I mentioned earlier. Thirdly, we also need to improve upon our science governance and management. We are quite weak in this area. And learning from other countries, we know and we realize that top executives must be involved with science policy because it's very cross-cutting. Science is not for Khon Kaen, science is not for my ministry, but science is for every ministry. Science is for vocational education. Science is for community development. So it's so cross-cutting. You need someone to point the fingers and say, let's cooperate, let's integrate. Otherwise, we will have bits and pieces all the time, and we will spread too thin. So it's important that we need to change our governance structure, starting from the top, and that is the prime ministership, to be able to come in and be a player in this, and then dictate the cooperation and the integration. We even need to work with all ministries. Most recently, I have worked with the, surprisingly, Ministry of Foreign Affairs to develop a program called science diplomacy, so that Thailand would have a good position, well positioned, in order for us to cooperate with strategic countries in the world. We have a lot of MOUs lying around, some effective than the others. It would be interesting to evaluate how much we gain from these MOUs. And if we can reposition and readjust ourselves strategically, because we cannot do everything, we cannot handle even 100 countries, maybe 20 countries, 25 countries, and have a very, very good focused strategies to those countries. For example, bioenergy with Brazil. For example, agriculture with the UK. For example, energy with Germany. Then we ourselves can position well what we need and how we are going to cooperate with those countries. So that's just one example that I think we can do more. Last but not least, let me say that even though I just spent not much time, but we are together building a house so that we would have strong foundations with all those three circles underneath, and strong walls with slabs of organism that we have to strengthen. For example, Khon Kaen University as part of the world-class science and technology infrastructure. Here you have the whole Khon Kaen University. You have Science Park hosted by Khon Kaen University. You can do more. You can do more for the resources that you have today. Maybe in tropical medicine, for example. Secondly, we also need to look into the strategic industry for the future. We cannot do or concentrate on all industries. We have to try to leverage the fact that we are investing a large sum of money on mega projects. How can science and technology go along with the mega projects? A lot of money spent instead of importing parts and components in rail system, for example. Can our scientists and engineers take part with the local industry to make sure that even 10% or 20% of the investment is invested in our own science and technology? We need to strengthen our enterprises, especially SMEs, to be more innovative. And here, the University of Khon Kaen can certainly create pools of talents, but maybe we need to be more flexible in many regards. Let me highlight one point that in my mind is crucial to the university's role for economic development, and that is, in other countries they may call it tenure track. We call it incentive system for university professors to be promoted through publications. May I also express that today it is not sufficient. We also need to look into another track whereby if university professors and researchers go out to help the industry, go out to help the communities, and come back without publications, but with good results, for example, can cut costs of production by 20%, can help the quality of life of the communities, why can't they be rewarded at the same level as the publication-based system? If we can break this routine, then The thing that the society always complain on us, and that is you research and it's on the shelf, would be minimized because we are working with the communities, because we are working with the industry with incentive system. Otherwise, well, this is economic term. We need incentives to be able to increase our production or productivity. So that is my view for university. Let me not go into the rest, but just to inform you that you can look into the web and see the policy statement of this current government, in particular on the topic of development of science, technology, and innovation. There has already been itemized in terms of R&D spending, in terms of creating good education in science, in terms of reform, incentive schemes, in terms of mega projects, and in terms of infrastructure. Let me end by giving you, because I have enough of telling audience, which I've been doing for the past decade, what conceptual framework is, what we plan, and what policy is in place, because in Thailand, very little has been implemented. Let me frankly say that. So let me say what we are trying to do, or what some of which we have already achieved. First of all, in getting our private sector on board to do more investment in research, we have now successfully passed the cabinet on giving the private sector who invests in research be able to deduct their research expense at the level of 300% instead of 200%. So hopefully that would get more private sector to do more research, and hopefully once they increase their research activities, they would have more to do with you in the university. So UIL through tax scheme is one of the strategies that we have done. Secondly, we are in the process of getting the legal or the regulations on government procurement to be more conducive to science development, and that is hopefully in general government procurement would also look at the local innovation and use local products more than what we have been doing. In terms of sectoral development, we are in the process of packaging a good strategy so that we will strengthen our base in many important sectors. The more ready one is the electronic industry. We have talked to big players. Most of them are multinational companies. We want to do three things with them, or they want to do three things with us. One is technological cooperation. At the moment, most of the technology development of MNCs are carried from their headquarters overseas to their local bases. We want to change that scenario so that local wisdom, local research can be more involved. Secondly, we want also to help them with their manpower. They have difficulty in recruitment. So at the moment, in a few weeks time, we will introduce to the cabinet the concept of talent mobility, and that is allowing Thai researchers, university researchers, to be able to work in the private sector even full time for a length of time, maybe 3 months, maybe 2 years, depending on the bilateral agreement. We will certainly see what effect that would have in increasing the level of investment in the private sector, given that if they want to invest, they need human resource. They want capable researchers. And where are they? They are here in the university, in the private research institutes. So if we consider this as a single country, there's nothing wrong mobiling people from the public to the private sector. Once they are finished, they come back to the university with hands-on experience, or even when they are going to the private sector to work, they can take with them a few PhD candidates to work in the private sector and use the private question as the dissertation topic. It's all win-win situation. We hope this can create a big change in a very short time. I have about 20 more, but I have spent all my time. So let me just say a few more things. Since this is social devotion, I'm asking one of the agencies under the ministry, namely the National Institute on Astronomy. Today we have a big telescope at Doi Intanon, largest in Southeast Asia, 2.4 meter in diameter, can reach many stars. Okay. When you have problem in life, go to Doi Intanon. Look at the stars, then you'll be okay. I did that last week. My instruction is for the institute to provide a small package of astronomy so that it can spread throughout the 77 provinces in Thailand without investing in infrastructure. So this will help our youth to have imagination and especially inspiration. And if they are inspired, they will enter Khon Kaen University to do more science. Last but not least, I think food industry is important, and Khon Kaen University has been doing a lot. So please keep on doing and do more. We have ITAP program helping the SMEs. We will escalate the level of activities on helping the SMEs with the productivity improvement. We also, if I can, but I don't know if I have enough time, we all know that the local communities have some of budget every year. Totally, this year is probably 27% of the total expenditure of the country. My hope is for every OPT, the local government, to spend even a few percentage of their budget on science, technology. May it be for education in science, or may it be for the occupation to improve their product or top productivity. If we can do that, it's spreading to all the how many thousands districts at once. But please help me in convincing the Ministry of Interior to do so without having to go into details of what to do, but percentage point is very important. I'm sorry I have used up my time, probably more than I should, but I would like to congratulate Khon Kaen University for the job well done over half a century, and I wish Khon Kaen University to spend the next half century to be a world-class university, which is not as important when you compare with the role of Khon Kaen University to be the base of development of the northeastern part of Thailand. So I hope you can do that, and with the help of all the personnel in the university, I'm sure that the president of Khon Kaen University can do a good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the insightful presentation. May I take this opportunity to invite the president of Khon Kaen University to present a token of appreciation to Dr. Pichet Durongkaveroj.